In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to create a one-click registration system with your Tightknit events so that any user in Slack that registers with your event will automatically also be registered for a Zoom webinar. We're going to do this through Zapier. Zapier will be the glue that connects Tightknit to your Zoom event. At the end of this tutorial, you should have a Zap that looks something like this. Okay, let's jump into it. There are three places you're going to want to have ready. The first is your Slack workspace with Tightknit events. The second is your Zoom meeting for which you want to have users register. And then secondly, your Zapier account. Note that we're going to be using some Zapier steps that require a Zapier premium account. So let's start with the Zapier Zap. So create a new Zap, like I've done here, and then start with your trigger. You'll want to search webhook, and you'll want to select webhooks by Zapier. As I mentioned before, this is a premium feature. For your event, choose catch hook. What this is going to do is create an endpoint on Zapier that will listen for data that is being sent to it. Click on the test tab, and then you can find the URL for this particular webhook endpoint. Go ahead and copy that. Next, we're going to jump over into Tightknit and tell it that whenever you have registration data, you want to send it to this particular webhook endpoint. And you do that by going to the app home, find the events promotion module, and click on events settings. You'll find webhook URL, in which you want to paste the URL that you just copied and hit save. Now, every time someone clicks register for one of your Tightknit events, it's going to send out the data about that registrant user to this endpoint URL. And so Zapier is already listening for this data. What you can do now is go to your events, find the relevant event. So in this particular case, I want to modify this Tech Talk Save Time Saving event, and go ahead and do a test run of the registration. So I'm going to click I'm interested. This label might be different for you depending on how you configured it. Once that's gone through, and you should have received a notification in Slack that it has happened, you can come back to the Zap and click Test Trigger. What it's going to do is see if any data has already been sent to this URL. And here we see the record of my registration attempt that I just did. We can use this to populate some sample data for the rest of the Zap, and it will make it easier for us to select fields in the future. So I'm going to select this record and then click Continue with Selected Record. Next, you'll want to pick the following action in your Zap. In this case, it's going to be the Zoom action. So select Zoom. For event, you're going to select Create Meeting Registrant or Create Webinar Registrant, depending on the type of event that you're running. In my case, it's a meeting. On account, you'll want to log into your Zoom account, and I've already done that here. And then action is when you fill in the information needed to tell Zoom that a new person has registered. Now we're going to come right back to this. First, I want you to jump over to your actual Zoom meeting in the Zoom portal. So I'll click here into my example meeting, and you want to find this meeting ID. In my case, it's this one here. This is what you will use to be able to identify this particular meeting in the Zoom system. And you'll need this to be able to connect the event from Tightknit with this event in Zoom. So I'm going to copy that. and then jump back into Tightknit find the event that you want to edit. And again, it's this TikTok here. Click Edit. In the Edit modal, scroll down to the registration settings. You'll find an input for custom webhook metadata. I want you to paste in that ID that we had and remove these spaces and click Save. What this is going to do is whenever Tightknit sends out data to the webhook, it's going to also include this custom metadata, whatever you put here, in that payload. And then Zapier will be able to use it to let the two systems talk to each other. So let's jump back into Zapier. Actually, let's update our sample data. You see that custom metadata here is blank because before I didn't have anything in that input. If I click Find New Records again, after registering again, let me remove myself and then register a second time. So I'm going to find new records. Okay, and here are some more. Now if I click on the most recent one, we can see custom metadata is actually populated with that ID that I just saved. So that's good. And let's continue with this record. Okay, so let's click on the Action tab for the Zoom meeting action. Now it's going to ask you which Zoom meeting you want to apply this to. Do not use this hard-coded option right here. This is a common mistake. What you want to do is rely on the data from the incoming webhook request. So click on Custom, and what you're going to use for the ID is this custom metadata field from the webhook in the first step. And you can see, for example, it already has my Zoom ID from the registration attempt before. So I'm going to select that. We also send user information when a registration event happens, including the email. So I'll select the email, the first name, and the last name, as well as some profile fields. These profile fields correspond to any custom profile fields you have configured for your Slack users. If you have any profile fields, we send them along here, and you might find them valuable in populating the rest of these fields. I'm going to skip this for now. I'm going to click Continue. Then I'm going to Test Step. And what this is going to do is, using this sample information, it's going to attempt to register this user in Zoom. Now we got an error here, and you probably will too. That's expected. In my case, this is only available for paid Zoom users, for which I am not. You might also get an error saying the owner of the Zoom webinar is not able to register for their own event. This is a sign that you have the correct meeting and that you have the right ID, and Zapier is able to find that Zoom event. For now, I'm going to skip this, and then you can now publish. Finally, confirm on the left top corner that the Zap is now on and enabled. Congratulations, you now have a Zapier live Zap that is listening for incoming data that Tightknit will send to whenever someone registers for the event by clicking the registration button. It will take out some data from the registration event and use that to forward to Zoom in order to register a user in Zoom. Now, you can stop here, but what you may realize is that we also send data for different events related to your Tightknit event, not just registration. For example, we also send unregistration. So I'm going to go back into edit mode. And this second request B was actually an unregistered event. You can see that here. And maybe you want to do something particular or different with unregistration event versus registration events. Or maybe you just want to ignore it completely. In any case, what you might want to do is select Paths by Zapier. And this allows you to put custom branching logic into your flow. So on this right path here, what I'm going to do is name this registration and name the other branch unregistration. So we can do different things for depending on which type of action it is. And I'm going to drag the Zoom action under the registration because we don't need anything under the unregistration yet. So under path rules, what's going to happen is you want to choose a custom rule and then only continue if the status of the event exactly matches registered. And then click continue. And then the other path is going to be similar. The status exactly matches unregistered. Note this is lowercase. Oops. Continue. And there we go. You now have branching logic in your Zap, and you can do different things depending on if the person was registering or unregistering themselves. Note that you'll have to have some kind of action here under the unregistration branch before you can publish. You cannot have a blank path. Also note that this is a Zapier limitation. If you have a path in your Zap, you will not be able to copy or create a template from your Zap. Now let's say you don't actually have anything you want to do in the unregistration case yet. That's fine. What you will probably want instead is the filter action. So I'm going to move the Zoom meeting up here, get rid of this. Okay, so the filter action is similar. It will just let actions through if, and the same thing as before, the status exactly matches registered. And click continue. And then now with the filter action, we're going to be filtering out anything else that is not just a registration event. And so only registration events will be forwarded to Zoom. And unregistration events, for example, will be ignored. Now keep in mind that at the filming of this tutorial, this is the value and the field used to differentiate these events, but this might change in the future. So for the latest update, for the latest API, please check the Tightknit docs website. Thank you.